Hello and welcome to Jim's Code Corner. My name is Jim Boucher. Today we are going to continue on working on our cardstock application. If you remember last time, we created an endpoint that would get all the cards that we had in our database. And we wrote some basic unit tests. We kind of tested the controller, not to the extent that we're going to today, spoiler alert. And we test our service and make sure that, when we had our business logic was correct for the minimal amount that was actually there. Today we're going to take it one step further. We're going to test our controller fully here. Well, not, I want to say fully, but more in depth than what we did before. And we're also going to test our query that we wrote. Now we use Spring Data to do that with JPA and all that stuff, but we should still test it to make sure that we're going to get the results that we are expecting back. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into it. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm actually going to remove our cards controller test as it is. Let's take a look at it. It's very generic. It doesn't really test anything. All we're doing is verifying that a method is called. It doesn't really test all the features that a controller really has, which is like testing the fact that it's handling a request and returning a response back. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this guy. All right. And let's create a new class. We'll call it card controller test. I know I could have just modified the last one, but fresh start. And you're used to seeing me using with the run with Makito JUnit runner. We're not going to do that this time. In this case, we're going to use something that Spring Boot has built into it. We're going to use Spring Runner, that class. And we're going to use also with that the web MVC test. And we're going to tell it where we test the card controller. No shortcuts today. Controller that class. Let me save. Hopefully I get all my imports for me. Did I misname this? It's cards controller. That makes sense. Okay. So we're going to use these two things in combination to actually test our controller. So the first part of this is going to be we're still going to have a mock because we don't really want to call the service still. We still want it to be isolated. So we're going to need a form of mocking. We're not going to use Makito. Well, we are going to use Makito, but we're not going to use the Makito like you're used to seeing here on my other videos. So I'll show you what I mean here. So auto-wired private mock MVC, and I'm just going to call it MVC. So this is going to give you a mock version of the MVC. So it'll accept a request and give you a response back. And you'll see how that works in just a moment here. And the other thing we need to do is we need to mock a mock bean. So we're actually going to mock a bean, not class. We're going to mock a bean. So private, the card service. So the card service can bean we're going to mock. Let's go ahead and save that. Okay, so let's go ahead and write our test. So the test, you'll notice this class is dedicated to this one controller, which is what we want anyway, but it's the usual setup when testing this way. Just an FYI on that. So we're going to do test should, let's say return JSON array. Okay. And we're going to, so here's where we're going to start doing our mock. So the service is going to return a list of cards. So we still need to have it return, we need to mock and we have it return a list of cards. So we have to start by doing card equals new card. Card.set name, set name. Well, let's call it name for now. Doesn't really matter what the string is. Oops, forgot semicolon here. Card.set price. It's going to be a big decimal, so we'll say new big decimal. And we'll say 10. Alright. So everything's imported. we have our card now. Now we need to put it into a list that will be returned by our service. So card, I'm just going to call it cards equals arrays dot as list card. And then we'll do our mock. So when card service dot find all cards dot then return cards. So there's our mock. Let's get all these imports done so we can actually see what we're doing here. Okay. So now we're going to use that MVC to kind of test this out. And I'm just going to, just for a reminder, and go back to the controller here. We'll see that the endpoint was /cards. I'm actually going to modify this real quick while I'm here. I don't like necessarily just using cards. I want to do something like API /v1. Yeah, not even v1. Let's just do application cards. That's fine. Okay. Actually, I lied. I do want v2 or v1 for just this little way of versioning out your controllers. Or there we go. Or your endpoints rather. Okay. So we know what the endpoint is now. So now we can do MVC dot perform, and we can perform a request. It's going to be a GET request /API /v1/cards. That endpoint we just modified. Then we could do content type. It's going to be media type dot application JSON. You see what we're doing there? We're just kind of building a request in those two parts, those first two parts. Now these last two parts are going to be our assertions. So dot and expect status, this is a built-in, dot is okay. So we're expecting it to give it like a 200. And one more expect, let's do and expect JSON path. $, colon, has size, or comma rather, of 1, because we put one card in there. So we have two assertions here. We have the first assertion being that we're going to have a status of OK, of 200. And the second one is that our JSON that's going to be returned through in our response is going to have an array at the root that has a size of 1. Let me go ahead and save this. It's never going to be happy at first. So we have to add our static imports. And I want the MVC, I believe. Alright, and here's where things are never happy in the beginning here. So what I need to do is look at my notes. First one I'm going to pull in is that has size. And there we go, there's has size. You can see it's a ham crust. Nothing crazy there. Now the content type, I'm not incredibly sure why that one's not working. Let me go back to my notes here. Oh, well, duh. And this, we're performing this whole action. That's better. Okay. So, and expect. My parentheses are all over the place here. Perform this action and expect this to happen. That don't seem right to me. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, but and expect is there. Well, there we go. That makes sense. Okay. And, well, that makes sense. Of course, as I say that, oh, okay. Yeah, it throws. All right, cool. There we are. So now we can now run our, let's make it fail first. You know, just do some good, it's not really TDD because I already wrote the class, but let's make it say 2, because that way the path at the root, or the JSON object at the root will have a size of 2, works, well, actually 1, it'll fail, and you can actually see what the failure looks like. So it doesn't look like a traditional like unit test fail, it looks a little different. So let's go ahead and run that, and we'll see it failed. So if you look over here, the assert error JSON path star or $sign are at the root, a collection with size 2, but the collection size was 1. So that looks pretty normal. You can read what that is. But here in the console, it looks a lot different. You can see it has our mock request, has the method, the URI, the necessary headers that we put in there. Has a whole bunch of information, but then we can actually see the response, which was 200. See the headers again. You can actually see the body that was returned. So this is really cool. I really like this kind of form of testing here. So let's go ahead and make this pass, and we'll call this test complete. Rerun it. And there we go, we're green. Cool. So the next test I wanted to go over is our JPA test. We need to test our repository. So if we go into our find all cards service here, we have a find all. So normally with this, because this is like out of the box repository stuff, I wouldn't test this. Just for the sake of the video, I'm going to test it. So let's go ahead and do that. Excuse me. So let's create a new package here. And this should go pretty quick. Repositories. Okay. And we'll create a class. We'll call it card repository tests. Okay. So when we do this JPA, testing with a database can be tricky. There are, of course, multiple ways of doing it. For example, there is the type where you do transactions. You never actually commit the transaction. However, that don't necessarily work with MySQL because MySQL, it won't show up in the table until you actually commit it. So that won't work in our database here. Another method would be to use a container. That's actually my personal favorite. However, it's a little bit complicated to actually get up and running. So I'm not going to do it in this video. Then there's the one, honestly, I've seen this most common. And it's not necessarily my favorite, and I'll tell you why in a second here, is to use an in-memory database, what we call it. It's an H2 database. It's I've seen this on most of the projects I've worked on that actually do the tests like this. The reason I don't like it is because the H2 dialect is not as powerful as like any like Oracle or MySQL or anything like those. So if you're doing some complicated queries, you can't really run those types of tests because H2 cannot handle those. So some things just go untested. That's the reason I don't like that. That's why I like containers more, because you're actually reusing a real Oracle database, a real MySQL database. You're spinning it up, you run your tests against the container, and then it just tears itself down and you start over again. So that's just my personal preference. However, like I said, it's a bit complicated just to get set up. So we'll do that in maybe another video. So for now, let's go ahead and get started with this. We'll run with a H2 is what we're going to do here. So the in-memory, and like I said, most common that I've seen. Runner.class. So we're going to use that Spring Runner. And the other annotation here we're going to need is the data JPA test. And this is once again built into Spring Boot. So I don't have to do any special imports to get that part working. What I'm going to need is to autowire private card repository. I'm going to call it card. Well, let me call it the subject, because it is the subject of our test. Once again, it's personal preference. You don't have to do that. Auto-wired and private. This is where test entity manager is what we're going to use to actually populate our database here with our let's call mock data. Okay, so those are a couple imports we need, our dependencies here. So let's go ahead and write a test. So public void, and let's say test should return list of cards. List of all cards. All right. So first thing we need to do, I'm just going to create one card once again. Yeah, you can do multiple. It depends on how thorough you want to be with your test. You can test individual values and all that kind of thing. But I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm going to change this from S though to card. I don't know why I just put S there. Card.setName. And once again, I normally don't put strings in here. These are called magic strings, and anyone who's worked with me in the past would know that I absolutely cannot stand them, and here I am doing it. And the reason is just because of time. So as we progress through the application, and I don't do videos on every little bit I'm doing, you will see when you download the code that I do not do this. So it's just a matter of for time. In this case, because I don't know, no one wants to watch a 30-minute video of me just typing. So, which, I mean, that's what you kind of are. But besides that, anyway. So we created that entity manager. So next thing we're going to do, we're actually going to put that card into our H2 database. And we'll feed in card. And then we got to flush it, which is going to synchronize things. And list card result is going to equal the card, or I should have called a card repository, subject.find all, because that's the one we were just running with. So assert equal, spelling is hard, equals, let's say 1, and we'll say result dot size. And excuse me one moment, I have to pause my video. Sorry about that, I had to assist my son with something real quick. So anyway, we were just running our assertion here. So I did the static import that, we'll save it, it should import test for me automatically. And I'm going to run this, and it's going to fail, and you'll see, we'll explain why in a second here, but we'll see. So run. I'm expecting to fail because I said that it probably won't. Okay, it did. Good. So it's failing. If we go to the first type failure, error creating, bean name, auto-configure liquidbase. So basically what we're getting error here is, if you remember, we're using liquidbase here to actually create our data set in our database. And that still works even with the H2 database, which is fantastic. Right? One of the reasons I love liquidbase because it just works. But the reason it's failing is because there is no H2 database. So we need to import that guy. So I need to go to my build.gradle. I need to go here. And we'll go under my imports down there. And let's see. Let's get remember what that import is. It is test compile group com.h2 database name. So I'm doing this a little differently. I'm doing the syntax a little different just to show with the power of Gradle we can do this multiple ways. I'm well aware that it is different and inconsistent, but it's not a huge deal, so that's why I didn't mind doing it this way. Okay. All right. So now we have that. We should be able to run our test, and it should, let me go ahead and do a Gradle refresh to make sure I have everything. It's synchronizing. Okay. Now if we run it. All right, so we'll see. This time we're not getting that. Well, let's see. I don't want to speak too soon. All right, you see this time we didn't get that same error, and our unit test actually passed. So if we go up here, we'll see in this huge mass of logs that it's using the H2 dialect. So it's using an in-memory database. That means nothing was actually saved to your MySQL database. It's all happened in memory. So that's pretty cool. Spring Boot automatically sets all that up and configures it for you as long as it has the import. So it's anticipating doing it this way. So we're good to go. We are now testing our controllers. We're testing uh, our repositories. The next test, which I'm going to do next week, is going to be, we're going to work on integration tests, I think, because that is something I think is what pretty missed all the time. So we need a way to test the whole run, the end to end. We need to do the whole API test, and there's a couple ways we could do that. I think we're going to do it both ways. Well, I'm going to say both ways, like there's only two. The ways we're going to do this, we're going to do it's a very simple one where we use Spring once again, because Spring has things built in for this sort of thing. And there's another one that's really popular right now, so Rest Assured. I see a lot of companies using that one, so we're going to try that one out as well. All right, that's all I have for you today. So don't forget to like and subscribe to this video. Hit that subscribe button and set up for notifications that way you know when I'm putting out new videos. Don't forget to leave comments and please suggest videos that you want to see. One thing I will note on this is not all my videos are going to be like just to repeat same thing over and over again. I'm only going to show videos that I'm doing new things probably from now on. So you ain't going to see me doing too many videos where I'm creating a very simple find all type endpoint. So if you need to see one specific one, if you see it in my code base or if I mention one that already exists, just go ahead and mention it and I'll write a video for it or make a video for it. But all right, thank you guys very much, and until next time.